Welcome to ATN Society Watch. This is a program where we ventilate societal issues, give them aggregate attention with a view to proper solutions that will benefit humanity. Today on Society Watch, we will be discussing on the lecturer on security. And on third, EFCC apprehends Alpha Herbalist for allegedly defrauding reps aspirant of 24 million naira. With us on the program today is a lecturer, Department of English and Literary Studies, University of Port Harcourt. I will introduce him to you when we return from this break. Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. And we have with us today a lecturer at Department of English and Literary Studies, University of Port Harcourt, Ene Eric Ibifa. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Anita. Good afternoon, viewers.
So let's look at our first issue for today on NLC protests. Falana orders lament incident strikes as Ganduje promises governor's intervention. Now, the NLC protesters in Lagos, led by NLC chairperson Mrs. Agnes Sesi, along rights lawyer Femi Falana, SAN, former NLC Vice President Comrade Issa Aremu, the zonal coordinator ASU Lagos Adelaja Odukoya, among others, have urged the federal government to channel recovered loot to meet the demands of ASU and other striking university unions. Speaking at the protest ground yesterday, Mr. Femi Falana said enough of incessant university strikes in the country and called on President Muhammadu Buhari to collect money from the looters to solve the lingering issue between it and the academic workers. He said, I commend the Nigeria Labour Congress for bringing out all workers today to protest against the instability of our junketing president. The president is tired. He has said he is eager to go back to Katsina. We are asking him to rush back home. This government is saying it wants it acceptable. President Buhari should collect money from 10 of the looters to resolve this issue of ASU. One person stole 109 billion naira, and there are those who have stolen more, he further stated. Odukoya said a professor in Nigeria is earning 460,000 naira after tax. That is bad and shameful. We cannot continue like this. Our universities are no longer attractive and competitive. We are here in solidarity to ensure this government does the needful. Meanwhile, the governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, has assured the Nigerian Labour Congress that the Nigerian Governors Forum would do everything possible to ensure an amicable resolution to the lingering crisis between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The governor, who spoke while receiving members of the Nigerian Labour Congress in the state who were at the government house, said this crisis must be resolved to help save the system. We don't want system collapse in this country at all. Ganduje said, myself and my colleagues from all the 36 states, irrespective of our party differences, are concerned about the prolonged, and we will put our heads together to bring an end to the crisis. Now, I like the fact that almost everyone is coming out to speak up on this issue because it has lingered for too long. But I like to take a cue from what Femi Falana said. He said if the government is trying to claim there is no money, the government should take at least the recovered loots from the 10 looters, just 10 looters, and then use it to fund the system. What was your take about that, first of all?
Well, I take that to mean that the government should. I think what he actually means, if I'll take the liberty to contextualize his statement and then try to give my own interpretation of it, I think what he's talking about is that the government should plug the loopholes in the system. Because, I mean, if you say that government should get recovered loot and then plow it into the ASU issue or plow it into education, as sensible as that is, the problem is that, I mean, it's not every day that you recover loot, so we have to come up with a sustainable system. I mean, recovered loots are a one-off, and you get them once in a while, possibly. So we need a system that is sustainable. I think what he really meant was that the government should plug the leakages in the system. And frankly, I mean, I've thought about it. It's true that the world is going through a perilous time economically. I mean, there is the pandemic. The world is recovering, and nations are recovering at different rates depending on their economic well-being pre-COVID. And then there is now the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the implications for the global economy. So all of these things have succeeded in, if you like, limiting, the pool of government revenue. So one understands, but even at that, the truth is that if we are able to plug some of the leakages in this system, we'll be able to get enough money conserved to tackle issues that are critical to the well-being of this country. Issues like education, for example, particularly tertiary education. So I think that's the idea behind this statement, not necessarily that. Of course, it's a good thing that, when government recovers loot, but, I mean, we look forward to a world in Nigeria where the looting of the public treasury will be a thing of the past. At that point, where will you get the recovered loot from to fund education? But if we can plug the system, I mean, he referenced the issue of a government official who is alleged to have, salted away $109 billion of public funds. And it's not a one-off. I mean, it's a pattern. If you look closely, you see those cases all over in high places. So even if he has been apprehended today, even if he's successfully prosecuted and is made to return the money, I think it's a sad commentary on our system that somebody can do that unnoticed, only to be noticed later. And it's also a sad comment on our system that somebody would have the mindset to even contemplate, stealing that kind of money from his own nation. I mean, that's probably the most unpatriotic action anybody can envisage in a situation where the country is complaining of depleting revenue. So yes, when we recover loot, we can plow them into education, but we look forward to a world there. If we can take care of those duplications, if we can ensure that, money is meant for purpose XYZ, are put into purpose XYZ, and then there is a follow-up to ensure that the money is judiciously utilized for the purpose for which it was voted. I think we'll take care of all of this.
Now, you talked about the fact that the global economy is not as stable as it used to be, and then it's also taken its toll on the country. But then let's also look at the fact that some people have argued that for the government at such a time to budget over 30 billion naira for the renovation of the National Assembly complex goes to show that they are not concerned about the educational system. So don't you think that much more than the global economy, it's an issue of having interest in dealing with the academic challenges?
No, I reference the global economy not to excuse the government, but to say that just to create a context for this, so it doesn't seem as if one is being insensitive. I mean, one is aware that indeed there has been a depletion of government sources of revenue. I mean, and the reasons plan appropriately, if we can be prudent, if we can be judicious, if we can, prioritize appropriately. This is just one instance of inappropriate prioritization. I mean, how can you think of renovating the National Assembly complex with $30 billion? Oh yeah, now there you go. My thinking is that even at the Palos state the naira is at today, with 30 billion naira, you could possibly put up a structure the size of the National Assembly complex twice over. So, and ask those people who are voting these humongous sums of money for renovation of the National Assembly complex, whether people see public office as an avenue for self-enrichment. And so they don't bring the kind of prudence, the kind of judiciousness you see in the management of their own personal funds. They don't bring it into the management of public funds, and that's really tragic. So I'm not making any excuses, but we really have to be mindful of the fact that there has been a little...
Nigerian Governors Forum would mount pressure on the president to ensure that these lingering strike issues are being resolved once and for all. But now let's also look at some governors have said they actually kicked against the protest, saying that they are actually not in any problem, having any issues whatsoever with the NLC, and so since they are paying them in their states, they shouldn't embark on this. Now, looking at this fact, do you think that we are going to have some unanimous agreement to approach the presidents from the governors?
I don't think we need any unanimous view on this. I mean, the broad majority of Nigerians realize that it has got to a stage where it has become a national embarrassment that tertiary institutions, universities specifically, will be under lock and key for upward of 6 months now. That's approaching 6 months now. I mean, you don't need to belong to party A or party B to know that truly it's an embarrassment to the nation. It's a major hit on the public image of this country. So it's not about, we cannot, I mean, you are going to find, well, especially those who benefit from the system, who are going to say, well, you see, these unions are being unnecessarily obstinate. These unions are not showing sufficient understanding. So you're going to find those kind of people. For the governors who are saying that, oh, they don't have any problem with that, so I think part of the problem we have in this country also is this idea of personalizing governance. A demonstration is not a personal attack on the governor, even in states where governors supposedly have each other. I mean, governors are just individuals. Whatever it is, whatever problem the union has, it's with the government of Nigeria, and the government of Nigeria remains. Presidents come and go. I mean, ASU was on strike during the Obasanjo era, ASU was on strike during the Yar'Adua era, ASU was on strike during the Jonathan era, ASU is on strike now. So it's not as if ASU has any problem with Obasanjo, with Yar'Adua, with Jonathan, or with Buhari. ASU has a problem with the Nigerian federal government. So the idea of personalizing it and saying, oh, I don't have any problem with ASU, I mean, it shows a tragic misunderstanding of what governance is about. Governors will come and go, but the state will remain. Now, this is, and whichever way you slice it, I mean, a governor will have to be thoroughly insensitive to even think in that direction, because there are students in that state who are from that state, either residents or indigents of that state, who have been, left at home for 5 months now because of this crisis. So it would be insensitive for any governor to say, oh, this is not about my state. In my state, I pay the university teachers, I pay the unions in my state, and therefore there is no point. Provided the strike is peaceful, the Nigerian, or the extant laws in Nigeria guarantee the right to demonstrate, provided you do so in a manner that is decent and tidy and does not constitute any nuisance to the public.
Yeah, all right. Now, you talked about the attitude of the leaders towards this, and then I'd just like to draw to understanding the fact that a leader in this country, in fact, at this time where we are having so much issues, the protest, the strike that has lingered for this long, and its speaker is currently in Harvard undergoing a leadership training. And then he even shared the photos on social media, now talking about Femi Gbajabiamila, shared the photos on social media, how he has resumed studies in Harvard for his leadership training and all that. And then people have been saying, oh, at such a time, I mean, you're even going at, okay.
Of legislation. I think, again, part of the problem is this idea of serve. And for me, if there is any consoling thing in all this, is the fact that the speaker looked quite ordinary. I mean, I saw him in a t-shirt looking
Yeah.
like any other student. In Nigeria, I'm sure he won't go to any
Nah, he
place
won't
like
do
that.
that.
You see somebody possibly wielding a gun, standing and then frowning right behind him. So, I mean, if he doesn't realize it, I think it must be a very humbling experience for him to be stripped of all those appurtenances, all those features of power that they usually put on. But I think on a more serious note, it's also insensitive on his part. I mean, whoever told him to put out those pictures did not advise him properly. It's not a bad thing for him to want to improve himself, fine, but he should also consider the fact that, I mean, back home here, universities have been shut down for a while, and it should also bother him that he's going to a system that works and
Work like what you have seen over there, even though it's not going to be 100%, but at least to an extent, let's see some changes. But over the years, we've had our leaders go out there for medicals.
prospers or fails to prosper depending on the extent of patriotism of its elite. Sadly, we have an elite in Nigeria that is made up of people who don't even understand the concept of patriotism. They don't understand what it means to be part of an elite in any system. All over the world where things function properly, the elite are, animated by the concept of noblesse oblige, which means that the fact that the system has given you certain benefits confers on you an obligation to then protect the system and to then reach out to the vulnerable members of the system and then, provide some kind of succor for them because you've profited off the system. It's not as if you're more talented than the rest of the others who haven't profited off the system. You may just have been opportune to have been in the right place at the right time. Now, we have a situation in Nigeria where our elite do not understand that concept at all. So somebody sends his children to the best institutions in the world.